Do you need to go to Games Workshop to buy those sweet Tyranid models? Or can you find alternative sculpts that might fit your swarm better? Turns out, Mammoth Factory have their new Void Stalkers campaign that is now live. These models are fantastic alternatives to Tyranids, so I wanted to see if I could make my own starter set using them. I had very little time to get this project done since the campaign was due on the 28th of this month, so I will have to use 2 printers to get the job done quickly. Don't tell Mammoth Factory, but I wanted to see how fast I can work on a project, and this was all done within 3 days. And I am probably sleeping when you're watching this. Both prints finished between 3.5 hours and 4 hours. Not a single fail. Using Mammoth Factory's pre-supported models, that is good because I hate wasting resin and want to get the most out of what I have. For the models, I went with Swarmers that will stand in for Hormagaunts, and for the Tyrant Prime, I opted for their Primers. I also like Gene Stealers from Space Hulk, so I picked up their Vassal Spawn Intruders. I needed some range, so I replaced the Barb Gaunts. I went with the Vassal Spawn Aethervores. After removing the models from the build plate, I needed to wash them. I have changed the way I wash my models. The cleaning liquid was getting far too dirty, far too quickly. So to fix that, I used one of the wash buckets as my initial soak before I place them in the main wash bucket. This first step will help your main wash station stay clean for longer, and your pre-wash is okay to be dirty for a long while until it stops being effective. With all the models cleaned, this is the best time to get all the supports removed. This is usually where you can tell if the support work was done well or not. I can tell you right now that they remove so easily. This was the first time I have ever printed Mammoth Factory minis before, and I can say they get an S tier from me. In fact, there is a rating system that Jim from Once in the Six Sided has started with another person called Minirater, where you can print and rate your pre-supported models. A good way to see how others have gone with the other creators. I'll link that below. And if you have made it this far, thank you. I would like to ask, if you are enjoying this type of content, please like, comment and subscribe to the channel. And if you want to go the extra mile, then I have a Patreon where you can support like these fine people. With day 1 taken care of, I head to bed, ready for day 2. Today, I'm ready to attack this project. First thing is to put on the reading glasses and remove the tiny supports that I missed during the initial support removal. This is usually the supports around the finer bits, such as the teeth, and also it is a good idea to sand the connection points because some of the heavier supports of the model's feet can leave bumps and you need to sand them flat. Over the years, I've had trouble using super glue on printed models. It doesn't seem to want to bond very well with resin prints, so I have finally found my go-to method, and it is probably something you already use on your plastic models. Super glue with activator. Ever since I have switched to this, I find this part of the process enjoyable now. When before, I hated putting together resin models. It takes only seconds for a bond strong enough to keep the parts in the right place while they fully cure. It's probably a good idea to put some music on or an audio book and just take your time. I don't know how many times I have rushed this part and then painted supports that were not removed prior. With the army all together, I primed them black and decided to try some test models. I went with more vibrant colors on the first model, but I must have been watching a documentary on birds because it looks more like a parrot than a beast from the void. The next one wasn't bad. I liked the neon green look with the purple armor plates, but I was looking for something that screamed Void Stalkers. So I went with a dark purple as a base. I wanted them to be a force that rips in space to suddenly appear to feed on the inhabitants of a planet, kind of like Tyranids, but easier space travel. The next step was to add more color. So for the highlight, I went with a lighter purple. This will represent some light on the highest points of the model. So with the airbrush, I sprayed from above, making sure to only hit them from the top. I think it brings a bit more to the Void Stalkers, and using the airbrush here makes for some quick, easy and smooth transitions. Also, if I make any mistakes, I can paint over them again because airbrush sprays paint in such a thin layer that mistakes can easily be corrected. And if you don't like the way it looks, starting again with another base coat won't hurt. Now, here is my plan. I wanted them to glow in some way. I thought, what a great way to represent Tyranid synapse, where they are all linked to the hive mind and follow orders without speaking. I wanted people to see that they are linked. This was an experiment that I had never really done before. So I started out with a gloss varnish through the airbrush. This will help the paint flow into all the deep recesses of the model. You may notice I am only hitting the points on their heads and backs. This is where I want the synapse to be represented, coursing through their brains and backs. I then used the Winsor & Newton white oil paint, mixing it with the AK Interactive odorless thinner. This breaks down the oil paint. Since you can't use water with oils, it won't end well. I just bought this starter set from Amazon. This is the part where my plan can fall apart really quickly, but thankfully the white oil paint flowed exactly the way I was told it would do. This technique I got from a creator on Instagram called El Miniaturista, where he does a lot of object source lighting. This was very enjoyable and half the plan has come together. Since I am on day 2 already and painting the army, I needed a simple way to paint them all up. That will mean missing some details that I can come back to at a later date when I get more time. I think anyone should challenge themselves to get the basic army done quickly with a basic painting process, then later you can come back and hit all the details to further refine your army. With the panel lining complete, it is time to have a good night's sleep and get ready for day 3. Day 3 is here, the last day to get this project completed. I got to work on a test model, probably a good idea before you try new things on a full army. The plan is to hit all areas with white paint through the airbrush to increase the glow. Kind of like a halo, so that I will have more intense parts. This was a bit of a chore first thing in the morning, but I felt like I needed to get it done before moving on to the next step. Luckily, it is a quick step. There are just so many minis you need to do the same thing to, and this is where you need to occupy your mind with some music. Now comes the part I've been personally waiting for. Green fluoro, where the white on the models already let me know where I need to spray the green. This is one of the points in the army where you get to see if everything you have planned in your head works out. Will the army look good when playing a game of Warhammer 40k or OnePageRules Grimdark Future? This time I was enjoying hitting all the models with a fluoro paint compared to doing all the white glow from the previous step. This is where I can see the army coming together. Is there things I will go back to? Yeah, mainly details such as teeth, claws, things like that. I would also do some edge highlighting on the armor plates and the skin, and maybe even some glazing. I came up with this quick red base and some dead tuff scattered around and painted the base rims black. But for now, I am calling this army done. Another painting project ticked off on my list. If you want to watch more videos like this, click here.